Welcome to Secrets of Stand-Up Comedy. I'm Dick Williams. I'm going to tell you everything I know about stand-up comedy. There's a famous Nas lyric. I don't sleep because sleep is the cousin of death. I have my own version of that. I'm not a hack because hacks are the cousins of thieves. Let's talk about hacky material and hacky comics. I was reading this Reddit post. I have it up here. That's why my lighting is different. I always look different in these videos. I don't know. But yeah, being hacky is not cool. I want to preface everything I'm about to say with this. If you're a brand new comic, if you're just doing open mics, obviously don't steal. But if you have some hacky premises, don't beat yourself up too much. Okay? It's always good to start any endeavor the right way. But at this point, you're trying to get as many jokes as you can. Just realize that some of the things you're doing now, you have to abandon or abort at a later point when you have more experience. When you know better, which you will know better after this video, but also when you have more skill and more experience and all of the good things. So the post, and I'm not going to put it on the screen. I don't feel like doing that. It says, hacky seems to be fine, ? I went to a show tonight at a top club in one of the top 3 stand-up cities in the world. It was new material night, but with pros. That should be interesting. Let's watch some pros work out their new material, their new bits. And was sold out. The first comic opened with I look like if X and Y fucked, which is their regular opener. Ay, 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 ay. There's another version of that I've heard since I started doing comedy. My dad is this ethnicity, my mom is this ethnicity, and therefore I am blank. I did this whole thing in 99 where I just went up because I hated that type of stuff so much. Jim Gaffigan sealed it when he did My Dad's German, My Mom's Elton John. After that, it was very meta because he was also commenting on that hacky premise. But I would go up in this one set. I went up and I did all the hacky premises I could think of, but none of it made any sense. So I would say, yeah, my dad's Irish and my mom's Welsh, so you know what that means. I'm half Irish and half Welsh. The comics loved it, but I was doing it to prove a point. The audience had no idea. They're like, that's not a joke. All right, let's keep going. This person posting says, I'm only a year in, but I remember going to my 4th gig and seeing 10 plus people do that joke. I would, at least before tonight, have been embarrassed to try that joke format. Good. Good. Don't use joke formats. 2 of the 3 comics had bits where they talk about their kids in impolite terms, which I feel like Louis C.K. perfected and retired in the noughties. Don't call it the noughties. Just call it early 2000s. I don't approve of that. But yeah, when he said my kid is an asshole, as far as I was concerned, that's his milieu now. That's his wheelhouse. You could. It doesn't mean that the topic is completely off limits, but it was such a change from how I at least heard comics talk about their kids that I was like, wow, this is different. This is fresh and exciting. All right. I can't remember the other examples, but it felt most of the topics were kind of generic or hacky. The audience, however, had a great time. And this is the part that really bothers me that this person wrote. And that's the most important thing. No, it's not. Because hacky comedy, if allowed to run amok, will ruin live comedy. Just as all these crowd work clips will. Again, everything I say on here is my opinion. You can Disagree with me? Disagree with me in the comments. I'll go back and forth with you as much as I can tolerate. But there's an old saying, I don't know, I think Norm Macdonald said it. I'll probably get it wrong. But in the 70s, there were 500 comics and 10 of them were good. In the 80s, there were 5,000 comics and 10 of them were good. That's kind of the thing. In the 80s, there was the big boom for comedy. And that was because disco was dying. They had all these nightclubs. They needed entertainment to keep people coming to these clubs. And the cheapest thing to do was put up a mic stand, a microphone. They had the PA system and book 3 comics. A lot cheaper than getting a band. And so people who weren't ready to get headlining opportunities or even feature or even emceeing opportunities, those places needed those comics. So it got oversaturated with bad comedy. It got oversaturated with hacky comedy. And eventually, I said in one of the previous episodes here that if you ask the average person how many shows they've been to for stand-up, maybe it's once a year. Most people have never been to a live stand-up show. The majority of people, I would bet you, have never gone and seen live comedy. So imagine they go to a show and they just see hacks. They see comics doing worn-out, tired premises and formulaic jokes, things that they've heard before, that they're familiar with. Would you go back? Would you pay $20 to $50 for a ticket, buy 2 drinks, pay for parking, all of that stuff so you could see that crap? Being a hack hurts comedy. It hurts the craft. And so why do I say that being a hack is comparable, they're related to thieves, to joke stealing? Here's why. Stealing jokes and stealing bits from another comic is the worst thing you can do because you're stealing from that one comic or, a few individual comics and hurting their career to elevate your own. When you're a hack, if you're doing a premise that's been done to death or you're doing punchlines that have been done to death, you're stealing from every comic who went before you. There's some comic who came up with that at some point. Comics used to steal from Richard Belzer all the time. Did you ever hear that one line, it's for crowd control, when people are talking? A comic will say, hey, where'd you learn to whisper, in a helicopter? That's Richard Belzer. I think he's also the person who came up with when somebody's heckling, hey, I don't come down to your job and knock the dicks out of your mouth. Or I don't come down to where you work and knock the dicks out of your mouth. Someone came up with these things originally. And so you're stealing from your fellow hacks and then the original writer. So while it's not as direct as stealing from a comic you know or worked with or saw, you're stealing from somebody. There used to be this whole, I can't find it online. It's like in a DOS program or something. There's hacky categories based on the type of comic. Like there was this whole FAQ for black hack. They called it black hack. And they do it for every ethnicity because every group, every tribal group, white guys, lesbians, Asians, blacks, they all have their own things that they repeat over and over again, and it becomes hacky. So for black hacks, it was white people do things this way, black people do things that way. And if you go back and watch Def Jam, shush, it's not racist. I'm talking about everybody. Willie's being crazy. If you go back and watch the Def Jam comedy specials, the weekly show, you'll see a bunch of comics do that type of material. You'll see, I'm trying to think of some other hacky things. It keeps getting updated because comics will jump on something and they won't let it go. And then other comics will try to give their spin on it. If you have a truly original spin on a topic or a premise that's been done to death, go ahead and do it. It used to be the things that were considered hacky back in the day were jokes about airplanes, airline food, the differences between men and women, jokes about McDonald's, where do the McNuggets come from? I think that the dynamics between men and women, that's always going to be pertinent. So that's still fine. And if you can come up with something like, it's funny because calling jokes about airline food hacky in and of itself has become hacky. Like, you can still find little gems because usually hacky material, the punchlines are surface level. They're not really being explored in depth. They're just noticing, real obvious stuff. So if you can come up with something that's a brand new take, a fresh take on that stuff, like I like airline food. So that would be different, in my opinion. If I did I wouldn't do a bit on that, but if I were to do a bit on how much I love airline food, that is not hacky. Again, all my opinion, argue with me in the comments, but there's a lot of new hacky stuff, like talking about trans and the gender stuff, saying, well, I identify as a helicopter. Somebody brought that up as a thing. And yeah, I guess there's a lot of comics who've used that line, I identify as a helicopter. I'm shocked by that. I mean, I heard something along those lines probably 6 years ago. And I'm not calling anybody out. I don't really watch comedy specials anymore. Once you've been doing comedy long enough, you start hating watching comedy because you've seen all the magic tricks. And also, I don't want to be influenced by other comics. I want my stuff to be organic to me and my day-to-day life, what I think about and all of that. I don't want somebody else's work to get inside of my head and then come out accidentally or influence me like that. You know what else is very hacky now? Talking about being canceled. I mean, how many comics have named their specials after some version of cancellation? Back when it started, yeah, that was good. That was a cool thing to do because it was pushing back. I almost said a word. It was pushing back against this crazy censorship and unpersoning people and wiping them off the internet and not allowing them to make money or pursue their dreams it was just horrible. But now you got people doing jokes that they were canceled when, I don't know, some of them just sucked. It had nothing to do with their politics. But again, not talking about anybody in particular. I'm just saying some of these things need to be retired. Jokes about COVID. Unless you can come up with something super original on that, it was a horrible thing that we all experienced, regardless of what side you were on with, or I can't say it because of YouTube because I'll get canceled. I mean, I haven't heard a lot of original stuff on that. If you were to do something that encapsulates that whole time period, then yeah, I think that's different. But if you're just doing a joke about standing 6 feet away from each other, it's passé. It's been done to death already. We're going into 2024. I mean, most people don't even think about COVID. They certainly haven't been, I'm not, I almost made a joke about it, and I realize I'm telling you not to do that. So yeah, this idea that the most important thing is for the audience to laugh, I don't agree with that, because there's plenty of things you can do to debase and degrade yourself to make them laugh. Again, you could steal material. That will make them laugh because it's tried and tested. Tried and tested. You already know it works. So, I mean, where do you draw the line? You could take all your clothes off and show your ding-a-ling. That'll make them laugh. It's against the law, but have some integrity, have some self-respect and some dignity. Write original material. You can do it. You already have. Here's what I want you to do in the comments, because it makes me laugh when people give examples, because there's a lot of things I'm not even aware of. Write out some of the hacky topics and premises that you've seen in various shows. Don't name the comic. I don't want to shame anybody. I'm against that. But different topics and premises, and even punchlines. Somebody asked in the comments, and I just want to address it real quickly, what's the difference between a topic and a premise? So a topic is the overarching thing, the difference between men and women, sometimes thought of as hacky. The premise is, under no circumstances will women take accountability for their actions. I'm not saying that's true, ladies. Don't get mad at me. I'm just telling you the difference. I'm using my first thought as an example. So that's the difference. A topic is the education system. The premise is kids learn more about how to fight in the bathrooms than they do about math and reading. Not a funny premise, but hopefully you understand the distinction. All right, I'm excited. This is a small victory, but as I've said before, this channel, now this podcast, is analogous to me starting off doing stand-up. So I started September 19th of 2023, and I've made this is my 78th video. I've made 62 videos. I think this is my 63rd video in 63 days. So I've made one a day every day, and I've reached a little milestone. I'm over 500 subscribers now. So thank you so much to everybody who's subscribed. I really appreciate it. And there's times where I'm impatient and I'm like, I think this stuff is good. I think this stuff is helpful. I'm not asking anybody for anything. I just want them to get better and to try this out. And other people charge for this type of information. And then I come back to reality and I go, people will find what they want to find, and they'll watch what they want to watch. And I'm not in control of that. What I'm in control of is showing up and doing the work and being proud of the work, and I am. And I'm very grateful. That's what happens for me. Whenever I shift my mindset from the whiny baby shit of, I want this, and I need this, and this should happen. And then when I start getting grateful and I realize, wow, September 18th, I didn't have any subscribers. I hadn't accomplished anything. Now, even if I stopped today, I made 78 videos in a little more than 3 months. That's crazy. What else could I do? So it builds my confidence. It makes me feel good that I've given something back to comedy. And I'm not going to stop. But once I transition into documenting me starting from scratch and going back into stand-up comedy, I may not be able to make a video every single day because there's going to be a lot more editing. But I want to. I really enjoy this. It's helped me so much. for my own life. And I love connecting with you, comics. I love seeing the comments and responding. There's a few of you I've gotten to know. And yeah, it's been great. So even if I'm only at 500 subscribers, it's amazing. It's amazing that there's this technology now that I can talk to whoever wants to listen all over the world. And they're not charging me to do this. I get pissed off, or not even pissed off. I get frustrated sometimes with YouTube. And then I'm like, they're giving me something. They're allowing me to make my... YouTube could be... and all these podcast outlets, Spotify, Apple, Google Play, Amazon, they're providing something to me. I should be writing them thank you letters. And it totally turns me around. And it makes me want to do more. So thank you to everybody. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye. God, these are always long, and I try to make them short, but I start to ramble. Hold on, I'm trying to get my thumbnail. I would never. How dare you?